Ever wondered how powerful ChatGPT can be for data analysis? In this video, I will walk you through how ChatGPT can be used to explore data, uncover key insights and KPIs, and even generate Excel macro to create charts and dashboards, all in just a few steps. Let us get started. As you can see on the screen, I'm going to take you through 3 steps. The first step is to set up the data file and the developer tab. The second step is to generate the VBA code using ChatGPT. And of course, we are going to write prompts to generate the VBA code. And then in the third step, we are going to execute the VBA code, which will generate our dashboard comprising of KPI cards, visualizations, and also pivot tables. So let us now get started with the first step, which is to set up the developer tab and the data file. We need to enable the developer tab if it is not already available in the ribbon here. As you can see, I do not have a developer tab on the top of the ribbon here. So let me enable the developer tab. In order to do that, I'm going to click the drop down here to access the quick access toolbar. In the quick access toolbar, select the more command. In the pop-up dialog, select the customize ribbon button. And to the right side, you can see I have a developer tab here. If you do not have the developer tab in your system, you can go to the drop down here at the top, click all tabs, and then under the main tabs, you can see there is an item called developer. This is nothing but the developer tab. So after selecting the developer tab, you can click the add button and then check the box here. After checking the box, press the OK button. So once you do that, you will now get the developer tab. We are specifically going to use the insert feature here under the developer tab in order to insert the button from this group. The next step is to set up the data file. You might be wondering what data file I am going to use for this exercise. I'm going to use the superstore.csv file from kaggle.com. So I downloaded the superstore CSV file already and I have imported the file into the Excel sheet here. And I created a new tab called orders. The CSV file is imported into this tab. After importing the CSV file, I converted the contents of the CSV file into a table, as you can see. I'm not going to go through the details of how do you convert the CSV file into table format. This serves as an input for our exercise here. We are going to write prompts to analyze this data file and create our dashboard. In order to create the dashboard, we need to first develop prompts. The prompts have been already created here. As you can see in this tab, I have 4 prompts here. The first prompt is to explore and analyze the data file. We are going to go into the detail when we execute the prompt. The second prompt is meant to create the KPI cards that will be placed in our dashboard sheet. Here, we have the dashboard sheet here. Right now, the dashboard sheet is empty. Now, the third prompt is to create pivot table. Now, pivot tables are required as inputs to the charts. So we are going to run this prompt to generate the VBA code, which will eventually create pivot tables for us. And finally, the fourth prompt is going to generate a VBA code that will read the pivot tables, and from the pivot tables, it will generate charts and put it on the dashboard. So let us start with the second step, which is to generate VBA code using ChatGPT. Now to generate the VBA code, I'm going to use Microsoft's Copilot, which comes with Windows 11. This is not the Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is just a Copilot that comes with Windows 11 operating system. So in this, I'm going to select ChatGPT 5 as the model here. As you can see on my screen, I'm going to select ChatGPT 5. Now I'm going to insert the prompt here. So let me go back to the Excel sheet, to the prompts tab here. Let me copy the prompt here, the prompt 1. In this prompt, I'm telling ChatGPT that I'm interested to create an Excel dashboard, and I'm asking it to read the data file that I'm going to upload, analyze the uploaded data, and suggest what KPIs, metrics, and other information we should be displaying on the dashboard, and also how it should be displayed. I'm also asking it that I want the KPIs and metrics to display at the beginning, and I also want to display meaningful charts and graphs to visualize the metrics and trends. So let me copy this and go to Copilot and paste the prompt here. Now the next step is to attach the data file. I'm going to upload the data file. I'm going to select the superstore.csv, select the file and press OK. The file is now attached. Let me upload the prompt. As you can see, it says the file is too large to read. So instead, it is going to go online and get the data set for analysis. And it has already come up with top level KPI cards, which says total sales, total profit, profit margin, total orders, average orders, and customer count. These are the KPI cards it thinks are necessary for us to display in the dashboard. And then it has also analyzed the data file and has come up with the necessary charts that we need to be displaying to the user. The first one is the trend analysis, which is basically the sales and profit over time. And then the second chart is category and subcategory performance, regional segment insight, discounts and profitability, customer insights, and so on. Given that we have these KPI cards, let us take the second prompt. The second prompt will generate VBA code to create KPI cards. I have provided the details of the shape and structure of the KPI card. For example, I have specified what should be the font that it should use, what should be the shape of the font, what should be the color, border, and other details. And I have also specified the name of the macro. I have finally specified that the code should read the data dynamically from the Excel table called orders present in the orders sheet. So let me now copy the contents here for the second prompt, and then I will go to Copilot and then paste the prompt and enter. So it has now started generating the VBA code, and it has named the VBA macro as specified in the prompt, which is create dashboard KPI cards. This is the name of the macro, and it looks like it has already finished creating the cards. Let me copy the macro and go to the Excel sheet and select the dashboard here. In the next step, we need to go to the VBA editor. In order to reach the VBA editor, press Alt F11. Once you press Alt F11, you will see the Microsoft Visual Basic for application open. This is the code editor in which we are going to put all our VBA macros. Now, in order to insert new VBA macro, go to the Insert menu here and then select Module. In this, right-click and paste the VBA code that we just copied from the ChatGPT. And as you can see, we have the name of the macro as Create Dashboard KPI Cards. Save the file and close the editor here, then go back to our Excel sheet here. Now in the next step, we are going to add the button and link that button to the macro so that once you click the button, it will run the VBA code. Next, click the Insert menu and select the first option here, which is the button. Select the button, just resize the button here, something like this. And here select the macro shown in the box here. This is the create dashboard KPI cards macro, which we are linking this to the button and press OK. Now the button has to be renamed. So right click on the button and click edit text. You can just name it as create KPI cards. So this is our name of the button, and then select elsewhere. Now if you click the button, it should run the macro because we have already associated this button with the macro. So just to ensure, right click again on the button, click on the assign macro, and you can see the macro is already assigned to the button. So now click the button, and as you can see, the KPI cards have been successfully created. Press OK. You can see these are the KPIs that was suggested by the ChatGPT. It suggested total sales, total profit, profit margin, total orders, and average order value. We can go back to the ChatGPT output. So these are the KPIs it suggested: total sales, total profit, profit margin, total orders, order value. Somehow it has failed to create this, but never mind, we can customize the prompt in order to include this as well. So with this, we are now going to move to the next step, which is to create the pivot table. Before that, let me position the button to the extreme left and save the file. You have to save this file as an macro enabled Excel sheet. Unless you save that as a macro enabled Excel sheet, the macro that you just created will not be saved. So in order to do that, we have to click the file item, save as, browse whatever place you want to browse, and make sure the save as type is macro enabled workbook. And then you can give a name here. So let us now move on to the next step, which is to create the required pivot tables for our charts. In this prompt, we are telling ChatGPT to support the chart visualizations it suggested. Please generate VBA code to create the pivot tables. And then we are telling it the data is in orders sheet, because in order to create pivot tables, we need to specify where the data is located. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT that data is already present, but in the orders sheet. And I'm suggesting it to put the pivot tables in a separate sheet called pivot. So I already have created the empty pivot sheet here. So the pivot tables are going to be created in the pivot sheet. Then I'm telling it to create pivot tables side by side so that it doesn't overlap. So this prompt is going to create multiple pivot tables, one for each chart. And I'm suggesting ChatGPT to create them side by side, leaving some gaps. And I'm also telling ChatGPT to name the subroutine as create pivot tables for dashboard. So let us now go ahead and copy the prompt and go back to Copilot, paste the prompt here, press enter. ChatGPT is now generating the code, and it has already identified the pivot tables that it needs to generate. It says it will create pivot table for sales and profit by month, sales by category, profit by subcategory, and so on. So I think the pivot tables have been now created already. It is also explaining how it works, and it is also suggesting if it needs to generate the chart creation as well, but we will defer that for a later time. Now let me go back to the top here, copy the macro code. Now go to the Excel sheet, and in the Excel sheet, now what you do is press Alt F11 once again to open the VBA editor. Now go to the Insert menu, select the module, right click and paste the macro which you just copied. The macro name is Create Pivot Tables for Dashboard macro. Save it. close the editor. Now we need to create one more button here. Once you click the button, it will generate the pivot tables. So again, go to the developer tab, insert a button here, and then place the button next to KPI cards and associate the macro with the button. The macro name is create pivot table. Press OK. Let me rename the button. Right click on the button, edit text, and name it as create pivot tables. I am going to reposition button so that it aligns well with the KPI cards button. Now that button has been associated with the macro, let me click the button. And as you can see, it has already created the pivot table successfully in the pivot sheet. Let us go to the pivot sheet and see what it has created. It has created several tables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables. Now save the file. In the next step, we are going to run this prompt to generate the VBA code for chart creation. In this prompt, I'm telling ChatGPT to generate the VBA code to create core visualizations it suggested. I'm also asking it to create a separate macro. In the last step, you can see the name of the macro is to be create dashboard charts. I'm also telling ChatGPT to align the charts properly below the KPI cards and also ensure that they do not overlap with the cards. I'm also telling ChatGPT that the pivot tables are already available in the pivot sheet and use the data in the pivot table to create the chart. I'm suggesting it not to use the grand total value for charting purpose because it can totally skew the graph and show incorrect results. And finally, I'm asking it to hide all the fields button on the chart. So let us now copy the prompt and then go to the Copilot here and then paste the prompt and press enter. Seems like ChatGPT has already created the VBA code and it is explaining how it works. So let us copy the code here, then go back to our Excel sheet. Now press Alt F11 once again to go to our VBA editor, and in the VBA editor, as usual, go to the insert menu here to insert a new module. Right click and paste the macro that we just copied. The macro name is create dashboard charts. Save and then close the editor. Now go to the dashboard here and now let us insert one more button from the insert item here. Select insert item and select the button. Drag it and size it properly. Now assign the macro create dashboard charts to the button and press OK. Now let me right click and rename the button create charts. I put a label called create charts. Now let me position the button so that it aligns with other buttons. Let me now click the create charts button and see what happens. As you can see, it has created the charts successfully. Let me press OK. And you can see it has created 4 charts. However, we had 5 pivot tables. I think it has missed one of the charts. Let me go back to the dashboard and see if something is hidden. I will just reposition these charts and see if there is any chart hidden. Oh yes, as you can see, the sales and profit over time line chart was being hidden by the sales by category chart. Sometimes VBA code does that. So you need to tweak the prompt repeatedly until you get the perfect result. So once you have that, this type of problem can be avoided. So as you can see, we have been successfully able to use ChatGPT to analyze the data file, obtain insightful metrics in the form of KPI cards here, and it has also suggested certain charts that could be useful to the user. And we were also able to use ChatGPT to generate VBA code to create the charts. Finally, we can combine all these operations into one button and create an unified approach such that you just have to place one button here at the top, and once you click the button, it will create the KPI cards, it will generate the pivot tables, and at the same time, it will plot the charts and place it here neatly. And that's how you can use ChatGPT to generate VBA macros that create KPI cards, pivot tables, and charts, helping you turn raw data into meaningful insights in Excel. With a few simple prompts, you can automate hours of manual work and focus on analyzing insights instead of building them. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more data automation tips.